Hey all, welcome back. We are on section 1.8 here of our Java Basics lecture. This is special operations. So we're going to look at some special string operations, some special string methods, and some special math methods as well. These are all really useful and things that we can sort of use whenever we find that we need them, whenever we feel like they would be beneficial to use. So these aren't all encompassing. There's definitely more string and math methods than what I'm going to show you in this set of slides. And if you're ever looking for more, you can always go look online. You can look in the Oracle documentation. There's lots of places that you can find it. So we talked a little bit about uh, output formatting. Hopefully you remember, depending on how many of these you watched in a row. We talked about output formatting with like printf or dot format and how we had that like %f, %n, and we knew that %n meant new line. Well, there are some ways to add some special characters into a string that isn't a .printf or a dot format. And those are escape characters. It's not just for adding in some special formatting. There's some other places why we would want to use them. So these all have a special meaning when it comes to being put into a string, just like we saw in the printf or the print or the system.out.format. We saw that they had a special way of writing the string literal and a special way of being translated. Well, anything that starts with a backslash gets looked at as an escape character. So in a string literal, in a dot print or a dot print line, it doesn't have to be in a fancy print method. If you have a backslash, the code goes to look at it to figure out what exactly you are trying to do because it knows that backslash has a special meaning. The only way to get a backslash actually in your sentence is to do a double backslash because you have to do a backslash, and then another one so that basically you're saying, no, really, I want you to use a backslash. This wasn't me trying to do something special. I just want a backslash. So even that has to be done like this. We can see that if we want to get a new line character within a single print line, but we're not using printf, it can be done. It's just instead of %n, we're going to use \n. So if we look down here, we can see that happening. We can see hello \n, this with a spelling mistake, because it wouldn't be me if there wasn't, will be on a new line. And so will this, and \t, this will be tabbed. Then this says \quote, this will be in quotes, \other quote. So a couple things to note here. This will be on its own line, this will be on its own line, and this will all be on its own line. So there's 3 lines here because there's 3 \n's. Um, Sorry, there'll be 3 lines here because there's 2 \n's separating them out. \t will give us a tab. So even though we don't have that printf special formatting where we can say how many characters we want to use, we can use \t, and then in Java we'll read this as a tab. So it'll know that you want to have a little bit extra spacing, not just like 1 or 2 spaces, and then you don't have to like hit the spacebar 5 times. And the last really important one here to notice, and this one's actually quite important, is that you have to escape your quote characters, right? Your double quote characters. And this is because strings are enclosed in double quotes. So if you go and open your string with a double quote, and then somewhere else in the string, you put another double quote, it will be very confused. Your code will think you're trying to end your string there. It won't understand. So if you don't want the double quote to be part of the code, but rather you want it to be part of the string literal, you have to actually say \double quote. Okay, hopefully that makes some sense. Okay, so now that we have that in mind, we can think about some other things, like some other string methods. So we did talk about these ones already. We talked about checking if strings are identical, checking if strings were identical, but we didn't care about the case. I did a really weird job of attempting to do this, but that's okay. This is just some more examples of it. Those two are we should be familiar with. We should also start to already be familiar with the length of a string. So if you want to know how many characters there are in a given string, you say dot length with quotations on the string. So hello.length will give us 5 because HELLO, that's 5 characters. Or when I say int b is equal to, and then I have an empty string.length, we're going to get 0 because it's an empty string. So that's a really helpful method as well. And then lastly here, we also have getting a given character in a string. So char at stands for character at, and in the parentheses, the parameter it takes in is an index, and it's asking you for the index that you want of the string. So you have to actually make sure that it exists, and then once you know that it exists, you can go ahead and use it. So if we look here, we'll see system.out.println hello.char@. Of course, this hello could be a string variable, just to save space. I didn't make it a variable. I just put the string literal in. So hello.char@0. Since we are computer scientists and we always start counting at 0, this will return the character h, because h is at spot 0, e is at spot 1, l is at spot 2, other l is at spot 3, and o is at spot 4. Here's another one here where we're saying hello.char@, but now instead of hard coding a value like 0 in, we're doing some fun math. We say hello.length minus 1. Well, we know hello.length is the number of characters, so that's 5. We say 5 minus 4. That's going to give us the character at spot 4, which is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we get our O character here because that's in spot 4. And then when we come along here and look at this last one, whoops, system.out.println hello.char@, hello.length. Well, what is this going to print? Well, we know hello.length is 5. Do I have too many brackets here? No, I don't. We know hello.length is going to be 5, so this does hello.char@5. Now, 5, of course, does not exist in this string. We saw that we start counting at 0 and we go up to 4, totaling 5 characters, but there's no position 5. So this would actually throw an error. It would not throw an error at compile time. The compiler will not have done the math, but rather at runtime, when you try to run this code, you will get an index out of bounds exception, because we're just going to end up falling off the end of the string and there's no character there. It'll just be garbage there. So our code explodes. There's other methods, string methods as well. As I had said, we will need more than those string methods, and we'll look at them as the term goes on. We'll find more things that we can learn and discuss. But don't hesitate to go to the Oracle documentation and see what string methods exist and what there are that you might be able to use. Because there's lots and lots of really good ones, and there's a good chance that you may find that there is a way to do things a little bit easier with other existing methods. So you can always go check those out. Okay, so here are the special math methods. So I had mentioned much earlier that we don't really have like a mathematical operator for exponents the way that Python does. You can't just say 2 star star 2 and or 2 star star 3 and get 8, right? We can't do 2 cubed that way. Star star doesn't mean anything in Java. So instead, we have to use a math library. So it's just like a Java library. So we're going to use the math package, which is like the math book in the Java library, as we've spoken about before. And the math book has lots of very helpful chapters or behaviors, right? They have methods. So we have math.pow, where we can send in 2 values, and it will pull out, take the first one, and then basically do the first one to the power of the second one. So here we could say math.pow 2, 3, and then that would give us our 8. It would return the value 8. There's also one for square root. You give it a value, it will do a square root for you. There's a min and a max where you can give it 2 values and it will come back telling you which number is bigger. It doesn't give you like the value 1 or the value 2, meaning like the first parameter or the second. It will actually give like return the value x or the value y. So it doesn't tell you which of the 2 parameters was bigger. It tells you literally which value was bigger or smaller, obviously, for minimum versus maximum, right? So it gives you that actual value. The one I'm showing here shows like that it does it for 2 ints, and then it returns an int. But these actually exist for longs, for floats, for doubles. So you can do a math.min on doubles, a math.min on longs. That's all totally fine and it will still work. And if you want to check those out, you can always go to the online documentation, that Oracle website, and it will show you so many more. This is not all the math methods at all. The last one that's really important that we're definitely going to use is math.random. Math.random does have an open and a closed bracket, but there are no parameters so that nothing goes inside them. Math.random will return a random number between 0 and 1. It can be 0 because it's less than or equal to 0, but it will be strictly less than 1. And this is really important because if you wanted to get a random number between 0 and 10 or 0 and 9 or 0 and 11, it's definitely important to understand what you're going to get back from this so that you can do some multiplication to turn it into a larger number. So for example, if you wanted to get a random number between 0 and between 1 and 10, you could multiply this math at random by 10. And then you would end up getting a number between 0 and 9.99999. Now you can do an integer truncation on that. So now you have a random number between 0 and 9. And then you can add 1, and you'll end up with a random number between 1 and 10. So it's a little bit of extra math to sort of figure out how to do that. But by leaving math.random, just returning like a super basic value between 0 and 1, it gives it actually a lot more power because we can do a lot more things with it rather than being forced into like a random integer or something like that. So it does use a little bit of extra math. But if you just sort of, practice a little bit, potentially, here, I'll even leave a little note in here that you'll all be able to see. Practice using this. Make a guess the number I am thinking of game. The computer, will pick a random number between 1 and 20. Inclusive on both sides, so it could be 1, it could be 20, and the user can keep guessing until they get, I can spell, they get it right. Alternatively, the user could have X number of guesses to try, otherwise they lose, right? So we can definitely turn this into like kind of a fun little game that we can try to do and give us some chance to practice math.random. Okay. So I do have some pause and practice here. This one is not the same as the question I just suggested, but this one helps you practice using the square method. So you'd create a Java program that will have the main and the square user method. The main method is going to should be declared as public static int square user, and it's going to prompt the user to enter an input number. So you're actually going to put the scanner prompt into square user. In there, you can use the scanner class, get the user input, convert it to an integer, and then calculate the square, and then return the squared value back to the main class. In main, you can call square and then print out whatever it returned. Really, this is just a chance to practice using that math.squareroot, that math.pow. It gives you a chance to practice your scanner, practice your functions. But if you're looking for more practice with this, definitely go and check out this sort of guess the number game that I'm suggesting you try to make as well, because both will be really good. Whoops, sorry. Both will be really good. And then, of course, as you probably just saw, solutions are available for this one, not in an actual file, but they are available on the next slide, so you can compare your answer for this to the solution. This sort of comment, of course, I just sort of came up with right now. So this one, I don't have a solution written up and ready to go for. But again, you can ask in Piazza, come see me during office hours, send an email, and I'm more than happy to help you work through it. Okay, this is our second last topic. We have one topic left. We're going to do two different videos on arrays, array basics, and then array slightly more advanced. And then we are all done with the Java basics. Thanks, everybody.